From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's warchant.com's Aslan Hujavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, is Luke a lock to lead the Noles into the future? We wax poetic about yesteryear and the 4-team playoff and trajectory. A lot of syllables, but does it have any meaning in the transient world of college football in this day and age? It's Wake Up Warchant. It's presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, promo code warchantbogo, warchant, B-O-G-O. Buy one, get one free. Vitamin Energy, 260 milligrams of all-natural caffeine in one bottle. Gives you 7 hours of energy because it's all-natural caffeine. It's not the super concentrated stuff that you find in some other drinks, in some pre-workout mixes that doesn't absorb gradually over the day, much the way all-natural caffeine does. That's what you'll find inside this bottle of Vitamin Energy, and no sugar. No sugar crash. It's kosher, made in America, and it tastes pretty darn good, especially the blue raspberry flavor from the Immune Plus, as well as the Tango Orange and the Sour Apple. Those are, I got a spot on my Mount Rushmore of flavors available for Vitamin Energy, but those three stalwarts. Shake it and take it. Try it. You're going to like it. VitaminEnergy.com. Again, promo code warchantbogo, warchant, B-O-G-O. Buy one, get one free. Warchant.com, the 150 deal still going on. That's 1 month, $1, or no, 1 week. 1 week, $1. I think, or 1 month, $1, and then 50% off an annual membership. I should know these things considering it's my employer and I believe in the product. Give us a try over at warchant.com, everybody. It's Corey, they're going to have to do a lot. I saw Matt Rule on Monday talk about one of his players entering the portal, and he's like, "It's fine. I'm fine with that because things are going to have to happen because we're going to have to get 30 to 50 people in here." Or he's going to we're going to lose 30 to 50 people to get where we need to go. And it's like, oh yeah. So we'll let you know who's coming, who's going, why it's a good thing, why it's a bad thing, all over at warchant.com. Corey's columns to follow as well as the portal season starts cranking up after this finale on Saturday. How are you, Corey Clark?
I'm good, buddy. Thanks for asking. And I think, everybody should sign up for Warchant and drink Vitamin Energy, but the Warchant, Vitamin Energy's all year. You should be doing that all year. But yes. Warchant, the month of December is going to be just utterly fascinating. So many decisions, so many big decisions, not just about how it pertains to the 2025 season, but moving forward the future of this program. What the program looks like if and when they're in another conference. Most of it can hinge on what happens here in the next month.
It is $1 for a week, and then 50% off the annual membership at warchant.com.
For the next 51 weeks.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. You
remember,
so you get 30.
Everybody. You pay for 31 weeks. You get 30 weeks for free.
Okay, I like it.
After the $1 week.
There we go.
Guys, come on. It sells itself. Yeah. What are we doing here? Join.
Yeah. You already have a membership possibly. Gift it to somebody. Start like a burner email account and then give it to them. Like, all right, here's your email account. Here's your login. Go to warchant.com. And if they want to change our name, like, well, I don't know what my friend wants his handle to be. It's okay. They can email support at warchant.com or support at on3.com, and we can change the user handle. Maybe create like a really goofy one and be like, you're my buddy. Merry Christmas. Here's your silly, goofy name. ... You can change it, though. So possibilities are endless. Corey, the big headline coming out of Monday's press conference, I thought, was the sweet vest that Mike Norvell was rocking. I'm a little bit disappointed in all of our sartorially tilted viewers because I feel like anytime Mike wears something, the comments blow up with, ooh, where's that? Can I buy that at Garnet and Gold? And I haven't seen a lot of comments on the vest, but you, Matt Lasser, were like, wow, Coach. Nice.
Well, it was a nice vest. It's a gray vest with some black in it, I think, or maybe that was just the sleeves he was wearing.
Are you a vest guy, Corey?
No.
I'm a recent convert. Come home to that as well. Vests are where it's at.
Stephanie wears vests. I've never been a vest guy unless I'm bobbing in the water, because theoretically you're wearing a vest to keep warm, but then I want my arms to be warm too, and they're just out there dangling in the wind. Like, who just wants to keep your torso warm?
Well, you wear like a long sleeve shirt or a sweater under, and it keeps your arms from sweat. I got pits. My pits do some stuff.
I got you. Well, that makes sense. So you
helps.
get a little airy, keeps you a little air. That's fair, airflow. Yeah. But I thought it was. I asked him about the vest because I couldn't tell if it was a jacket that looked like a vest,
like a puffer,
or was
like
an actual vest.
Yeah,
but it was a vest. It was a good look. Good look, Mike. Better than the plaid shirt he wore about a month ago, right? Like I like this was a nice step up.
The nondescript shirt without any sort of Florida State logos on it. Yeah, wonder where his head was at. It's firmly here. He is where his feet are. That's Tallahassee, Florida, leading this program as they get set to face the Gators against Saturday night ESPN2 7 p.m. kickoff. Interestingly enough, Corey, he was asked about he volunteered the fact that Luke Kromenhoek's going to start, which I don't really think is much news, but it's worth, I guess, underlining when you're following a 2-9 football team, and then other news is sparse. But between that and him pretty much saying that Roydell's going to be good to go, which we never hear him say anything that definitive about a player that's injured. I don't know if that means maybe he does feel really optimistic about this game. Less maybe so about how he feels. What did you take away from the addition of having Roydell in the mix? And then I guess Luke is going to be the starter. Does that speak to any kind of larger point or projection for his future in the garnet and gold?
100%. I think that, and I wrote a column about it. People know my feelings on this quarterback situation. I haven't been overly impressed with either, but I've also stated the reasons why. It's hard to look impressive with what's around them. But he played basically the whole game in the penultimate game of the season. And then in the rivalry game, the last game of the season, for the first time in a month, it's not like Orr on the depth chart, right?
Yep.
It's just Luke Kromenhoek in bold. That's the starter, which whether you agree with it or not, whether you think Luke's the next Josh Allen or the next name somebody that isn't as good as Josh Allen, the fact is this coach, in my opinion, from playing him the whole game on Saturday, or all the meaningful plays anyway, and then listing him as the starter for the Florida game with no Orr, this is the guy he wants next year. I don't know if he wants him to be the starter next year, but he wants Luke Kromenhoek on his football team. I don't know how else you could read it. That if push comes to shove, and it has because they're 2-9, Luke Kromenhoek is the guy he believes in more. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And I think that's all that this says. I don't know if it's the right decision or the wrong decision. Look, man, Brock Glenn is completing like less than 45% of his passes. So it's not like he's sending some guy that's proven to be awesome. He's got I think he's definitely got more turnover. I think he's got 6 turnovers, 4 touchdowns. So Brock Glenn has not bathed himself in glory. So it's not a huge loss necessarily if he leaves. But it's I think he's done enough things to be intriguing moving forward if you're surrounded by better people. But clearly the head coach likes Kromenhoek more. That seems obvious. And I think that's also what you're selling to whoever might be your OC in a month. That this is the guy that I believe in the most. Now, I don't know if he's ready to start in 2025. He was kind of thrown into the fire. But I'd like, even if he's my backup, I'd rather him be my second-string quarterback than Brock Glenn. I don't know how I mean, that probably sounds a little too, I don't know.
Simplistic?
Cut and dry.
Yeah.
Just cut and dry. Yeah, simplistic. But it's the truth, right? I don't know how else you could read it other than the fact that he played the last game, basically the whole game, when they had been alternating. He started, and then he's the unquestioned starter going into Florida. Yeah, I feel like that means that he thinks Kromenhoek's the future.
Yeah, and seemingly in a game where it's hard to imagine failing. Like you were put in a situation more so than anything Brock Glenn has ever touched while being at Florida State, where you're walking into a very favorable sort of situation.
Yes.
Brock has never had that kind of
luxury. Brock gets to start at Notre Dame and at Miami and against Louisville and against Georgia.
Yeah.
Luke gets Charleston Southern.
Yeah.
I think Brock would have enjoyed getting to face a defense like that, but he's never gotten to. He's always had really tough games at Clemson. His first start is against Clemson for a 1-3, 1-4 football team. Kromenhoek's first start is against Charleston Southern, a 1-10 FCS team. Again, I feel like Kromenhoek's maybe been set up a little more for success.
Yes.
But that's what you do, right? I'm not begrudging Norvell the opportunity to do that. You want to build this kid with confidence. I think it was important. And that's another. I should have put that in the column. Maybe I'll go back and put that in there.
All right.
That's telling, right?
You're welcome.
That he wanted to make sure that Kromenhoek got some success, felt some real success moving forward, because he thinks it's more important probably to the future of the program to fill Kromenhoek with confidence than Brock Glenn.
Part of me thinks about the 19 game at Clemson where I think they started Blackman, but then they put in Hornibrook, but they gave Hornibrook a bunch of cool plays. Like they gave him some gadget plays, some misdirection, inventive plays. Meanwhile, like Blackman was just, all right, just drop back and hope for the best. And I'm like, why are they helping this guy out at all? And I don't know, I guess, listen, I'd rather be in the Luke Kromenhoek position where I only get one shot really to succeed, and it's pretty much stacked way in my favor, versus I guess you can look at the Brock Glenn route where we're going to give you a bunch of opportunities. None of them are going to be great, but you're going to have a lot of opportunities to wow us and to win us over. But again, probably not the most favorable situation for you. So, I mean, I guess that's the thing they can maybe feel good about when they're going to go and talk to recruits. If they're like, hey, we kind of noticed the way you play the quarterbacks, felt like maybe you gave one guy a bit of a raw deal. It's like, well, hey, he started 5 games, and we didn't see a lot from those 5 games. So we felt best course to, a guy that we believed in was set him up for success and give him a soft launch. And we feel good about that. We want your son to come here and follow the same path. And we're going to set him up for success. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Like Brock really never had a good shot at anything. And now I said it on yesterday's show. I don't know if you feel any differently after the way Mike spoke on Monday, but I think Brock Glenn's time here in Tallahassee has come to an end.
Probably.
And I'm not lamenting it too much, but it's unfortunate.
It is, and I do feel bad for him because he was just put in an impossible situation. Then again, he did turn it over on 3 straight plays. If he just plays an average game at Duke, they're 3-8 right now.
That's true. Very good point.
He gave that game away. He literally gave it away. So it's hard to feel. I'm not crushed for the young man.
Yeah.
But he could still stay. I don't think there's anybody tell him to move it on down the road, but he would stay, probably being a third string, thinking he's going to be the third string quarterback. Which why would he stay if that's the case? So yeah, yes, I do.
Not
agree
a bad
with,
life. Ask JJ Constantino how it was.
Yeah, it's still fun. It's still good times. I mean, it's not as fun when you're 2-9, but he got to be on an ACC. He got to play in the ACC championship game. That's fun. He got to stand up there on a podium. That's always a good time. So yeah, Brock Glenn's, he still his career. Like I said yesterday, his book's not written. His book isn't done being written. I have no idea where his career will go because, as I said in the column, and I've said throughout the year, I like some stuff about him. He is tough. He is athletic. He does seem a little more quarterbacky in the pocket than Kromenhoek right now. But then again, he also has 6 turnovers and not that much time. So, it's fine. I think that it seems when Mike Norvell is trying to – I'm not saying he's trying to do this to keep Kromenhoek happy. Like, I want Kromenhoek to be here. But he genuinely sees something in him that maybe has not been all that evident through the first 5 or 6 games that gives him that is so very tempting and gives him a lot of hope for what it could look like when he's surrounded by better players and he's more mature. And I say he sees something in him like I'm blind and I don't see any of it. Man, he's made some incredible throws. The best throw of the season remains the one that poor teardropped against Duke. That's the best throw any quarterback has made all season. The throw to Douglas down the sideline is great. He made some other throws that were really nice in that game as he got more and more comfortable. And he's made good throws throughout the season here and there. My biggest problem, as everyone knows, is his pocket presence or lack thereof so far. But he hasn't been playing the position long, and he doesn't have a big pocket. He doesn't trust the pocket. So all that you hope gets helped. What I think is even maybe more intriguing than if Brock Glenn leaves or not. I still don't, unless, like I said, Kromenhoek has a great game on Saturday night, which I'm doubting. Not because I doubt his ability. I doubt because, I've had eyes the last 11 weeks. This offense doesn't have great days against real teams. So I still think they're going to a portal. Even though he's giving Kromenhoek confidence or trying to instill confidence in this young man and making him the starter and letting him get good reps against Charleston Southern, I still think you go into next year with a veteran quarterback. and you hope the freshman will be willing to sit behind him and learn, and not be, oh, what,
That goes back to
I'm leaving too.
Well, that goes back to what we talked about yesterday, Corey, where, listen, I didn't phrase it correctly, and you're like, oh, duh, obviously. If they are going to go that route, which I think they do, I don't think they get a Hornibrook type, right? I think they try to get a veteran quarterback that they think can be their starting quarterback, can be not a bridge like he's the instant reboot to get this thing back to respectability, which maybe that makes it a little bit of an easier pill to swallow if you're Luke, but I don't know that kid inside and out to make that determination. But yeah, I agree, man. They have to go get another quarterback in the portal, some sort of veteran. Yeah, and it needs to be a guy that I don't want to get the kid from, I don't even know, Northwestern or something. I don't want to get that kind of caliber kid. I want to get a guy that for whatever reason, maybe there was a falling out, maybe a coach left, offensive coordinator left another school.
What about the kid at Syracuse?
Kyle McCord?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But you take him in a heartbeat, right?
He's had like half a dozen games where he's had 3 or more touchdowns against like FBS teams. Yeah, I think so.
I think he leads the nation in completions. In maybe his top 3 or 5 in passing yards. Now they throw it more than Florida State, but somebody like that. And why would he transfer to Florida State when he's putting up those kind of numbers at Syracuse? That's a fair question. I'm just saying somebody like that. I think you take in a heartbeat and you tell Kromenhoek, "Sorry, man, tough it out. Look at what this guy's done. Compete. Exactly right." But also, as Ira brought up on his spot on Jeff's show on Monday. I don't know how many teams are going to be beating down the door for either one of these quarterbacks. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And you'd have to wait around too.
Yes,
that's what I'm
saying.
Leave, whatever would make you leave for Florida State, Georgia, Texas.
You ain't guaranteed a starting spot there either.
No way. Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah, Kromenhoek or Glenn could go do the Tate Rodemaker and probably start at a Southern Miss or somewhere like that. But I would think it'd make more sense to stick it out at Florida State, where you already know a lot of it might be a new system. It'll probably be a very similar system, but whatever. You're already here. You're comfortable. It'd make more sense, and you have a legitimate shot at starting, as opposed to going to a new school with new coaches and still having to battle it out for the starting spot. Is Texas going to, or Georgia, because I know Georgia made a run at him late last year before signing day. He would not go to Georgia and be guaranteed at all.
No, they got
the starting quarterback spot. They got 2 guys behind him, including Rashada.
Yeah.
But Georgia just being an example, there's no team on the level of Florida State program. I should say this team is below everyone. This program though is it's an upper echelon program.
Yes.
There's no other program in those echelons that has a free quarterback spot waiting for Brock Glenn or Luke Kromenhoek. So to me, it would make sense for both of them, honestly, to stick it out and stay. I just understand the nature of college football. One of them would probably leave if they brought in a veteran quarterback. But I still think, even if Mike Norvell thinks Kromenhoek could be awesome in a year or two, you cannot go into the Alabama game. I just don't think you want to go in the Alabama game with either one of these 2 guys as your starting quarterback necessarily. I could be wrong. They might make huge strides in the offseason, but we need to see it. Start Saturday night, gang. Luke, step in, fire, play with some conviction. I don't care if you throw a couple of picks. Get rid of the ball. Throw it on time, in rhythm, and let's see what that looks like. Got nothing to lose, man. Nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose when you come to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, especially on a Friday when there's a home game going down. Happy hour, has it been approved at 6 p.m., or are you just going to go ahead and muscle Jeff out the way and be like, this is the...
Hey, man, I don't care. He can get there whenever he wants. Corey Clark is arriving at Corner Pocket at 6 p.m. on Friday. And also, I am coming down that day from Atlanta with Brady in tow.
Yeah!
So I don't know when exactly I'll get into town, so I'm making my own executive decision just for me. I'll be there at 6.
Jeff might be there at 5. You can be there anytime you want after 11 a.m. up until 2 a.m. Those are the hours of business at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. CPTallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. The Corey Wrap available on Fridays and pretty much every other day. That's not a home game on Saturday because they're super busy because all the Noles that can't make it to Doak Campbell because they've all been sellouts. Tough ticket with only 50,000 capacity. See how it shakes out.
Hey, shout out, by the way, I meant to say it yesterday. There was a family from Las Vegas that came in for the game this past weekend and came to the corner pocket. He's an FSU grad, I think, but she was a UNLV grad, but their whole family came, and there's like 4 of them, I think, 3 or 4 of them. But I can't remember their names. I apologize, but it was very nice that they came up and said hello, and they were very complimentary of the show and what we've done. And I got that a lot on Friday, actually, Aslan, that people do appreciate what we do, even in these down times. Awesome. They really do appreciate it, and that's always very kind to hear. So I just want to give a special shout-out because Las Vegas is a long way to come for a Charleston Southern football game. But it was homecoming, so I get it. But good on them for coming for all the. He was wearing a UNLV hat too, by the way.
All right. Yeah, nothing personal. Corey doesn't remember anybody's names. It's fine. Yeah. My biggest fear is when people say something nice and I forget to shout them out on the next immediate show. They're like, "Oh, I said what's up to Aslan. He didn't mention me on the show.
Yeah,
I'm no longer a fan." Shout out to our guy Pensanol. I saw him on the way to the Charleston Southern game. I'm a late arriving guy. I'm not going to say what time of the game was. I shouldn't even have said what time I arrived because people might besmirch my guy for leaving early, but I don't, Pensanol. I didn't want to take a photo, so that was cool. We appreciate you folks. If you appreciate us, drink some Vitamin Energy and go to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, promo code warchantbogo. Buy one, get one free. What heartened me on Monday, Corey, is that if this doesn't work out with Mike Norvell, I think we can put you in charge of the program as a caretaker, CEO, delegator type until we get the right guy in place. Not sure that's going to happen. Mike going to right the ship. Hashtag Mike got us. Shush kebab emoji. But the way that you talked about it on the Monday show, the completion to Ja'Kai in the first half when things were a little bit rocky and the Noles couldn't get really a drive going on, and that kind of salvaged a drive and got a score for the Noles on the board, and that kind of settled things down. And that was a play that Mike specifically talked about during his Monday press conference as being like a really good moment of growth for Luke and let him kind of settle down and settle in. Will we look back on that play much the way we look back on Shaheem blocking the extra point in 2022 as a turning point for someone's career at Florida State?
Yeah, probably not, but it could be. Just because, the last taste we're going to have in our mouths about this season and Luke Kromenhoek as a quarterback, and maybe the last image he has in his brain moving forward into what is a very important offseason for him personally, probably won't be the pass to Ja'Kai in the second quarter against Charleston Southern. I imagine it's going to be something that happens this Saturday night coming up. Let's hope there's more positive there. I do think that something like that, if Luke Kromenhoek plays well on Saturday night, and by playing well, I mean just don't be awful. Be average-ish. But if he plays decent, let's say decent, then that could give him enough that could be a real building block of confidence moving into next season. And I think him playing decent on Saturday, a lot of that could be traced back to that play. Because I'm not convinced, but I'm fairly certain if he doesn't throw that and make that completion, I think Brock Glenn probably comes in the game on the next series. And instead, he made that completion. They went down and scored. He did the little left-handed shovel pass for a touchdown. And then that just got them going for the rest of the game. I think if they have to settle for a field goal there after getting the ball at the 30 and going and just gaining -1 yard against Charleston Southern, so now that's 4 drives where he hasn't produced a touchdown, I think that might have been a wrap on the game for Kromenhoek, and maybe a wrap on his playing this season, and then maybe a wrap on his time at Florida State. There is a chance now, as you ask that question, maybe it is something we look back on, that play. Because not that it changed the outcome of the game necessarily, they were still going to win the game, but it changed his trajectory, perhaps. Yeah. If he ends up having a good career here, a great career here, there is a chance if he doesn't complete that pass that maybe Brock Glenn comes in on the next series. He would have played well, clearly, because he did when he got in there, and it was Charleston Southern, and then maybe he's starting against Florida. But no, it was Kromenhoek that ended up with 3 touchdown passes. And he's the one that gets to start against Florida and maybe prove that he belongs to be the quarterback of this offense moving forward.
I wonder if there was a play in Jameis' first start against Pitt where it's like, ooh.
All of them. The first one, the second one, the fifth one. By the way, I would encourage everyone to go watch NFL Films, I guess, had him mic'd up for the snow game against Pittsburgh. in the Cleveland Browns just retweeted like all 14 minutes of it. Just him the whole game, pregame, mid-game, post-game. He's wearing a mic.
Oh man!
And it is it's just insane, insane in a just a great Jameis way. Yeah. He must say "I love you" 150 times to people.
Hell yeah!
To Chubb, to the offensive line. It kept talking about making snow angels. And the first time he'd ever played in snow, and after he had the 2 turnovers, he came back and said, I got you, I love you. Every time Chubb scored, I love you, man, I love you so much, I love you. Like, just nothing but positivity from that dude. You can see, well, we always know, this was 11 years ago now, he was the starting quarterback, or freshman quarterback here, that you can see why most to all of his teammates have absolutely adored that guy. He's just so positive. And that's in that moment. That's not fake. Like, I think some people, when they know they're wearing a mic, they, like, ham it up because they know NFL Films is watching. You can tell that's just Jameis being Jameis. And they're used to it. But it was really fun to see. So I would encourage everybody to go watch that because it's telling of the kind of teammate he is.
I mean, Jameis Winston didn't convert the first third down in his career. Look what happened to him. So
you know what happened on that? I think he got his helmet knocked off, and Coker had to come in.
No,
I think on that
play-by-play shows that he completed to Kelvin for a loss of 1 yard on 3rd and 1. All you had to get was 1 yard, and you lost a yard. Unbelievable.
And you threw the ball.
Unbelievable.
You threw the ball to Kelvin. I wonder if it was like a shovel pass. Like Kelvin comes in motion and you shovel pass it to him and he got – Man, I don't remember that play at all. I remember him having to come out of the game because his helmet got knocked off. So was it his second drive where he hit O'Leary and then the route was on? It must have been. He hits O'Leary for like a 30, 40-yard touchdown?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it was a 2-yard touchdown.
No, but you're looking at it wrong. His first touchdown of his career was like a 30-yard touchdown at least.
Oh, it's 14-7. It's hard to read the play-by-play here. I'm going to get it right, promise. Yep, 24 yards.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, I think he had three. O'Leary had 3 touchdowns that night. Yeah, that was there weren't. But no, to answer your question, there were plays in that game. There was one where it was like a zone read type. He pulled the ball, was running towards the line, and then stopped and threw it to Kenny Shaw over the middle of the field for like I would guess a 30-yard gain. Where I was like, what in the world is this? That we've never seen anything like this. And that's when I was that's when it was it was a play like that where I'm like, well, this isn't incredible. This isn't normal. This was the best game any quarterback and he had just had 2 first-round draft picks, and it was by far the best game any of Jimbo's quarterbacks had ever played at Florida State. Not even close. And that wasn't a terrible Pitt team. They had the great Tom Savage on that team.
Correct.
So yeah, Aaron Donald, heard of him, gang? And Florida State just wrecked them. And yeah, that was it was pretty obvious by game 3 or 4, probably the Boston College game, honestly, is when you knew for sure, okay, this is utterly, completely different. They're not just going to be a good Florida State team with a chance. They're probably the best team in the country because of that dude. And
did he ruin college football for you the way he's ruined it for me?
No.
We're never going to have anything as perfect as him in 2013. I don't know. I hope so. We strive for that every day, I hope, on the recruiting trail. But that team, that quarterback, like nothing was ever fearful. No anxiety ever.
Yeah.
3rd and 12, well, whatever. It's okay.
3rd and 20 in the swamp.
And
he throws a 21-yard dime to Kenny Shaw, who gets wrecked, but of course he's Kenny Shaw, so he holds on to it. No, I would say, honestly, if anything ruins college football for me ever, it's college football itself, like what it's become. There was a really good post on the Tribal Council on Monday about college football, and it was about how Disney had kind of ruined – well, no, the poster, and I can't remember who it was, blamed the presidents. He's like, I understand that Disney is in the business of making money. So, of course, they're going to do what's best for them. But the president's giving them complete ownership of a sport, even with conflicts of interest, ruin the sport. And it's 100% true. Like, it ruined the equity of the sport. Fox and CBS don't run the NFL. The NFL runs the NFL. And there is no, the Cowboys get more eyeballs, but they don't have an inherent advantage over everybody else because of that. But college football, because of Disney, like, again, I've made this comparison a million times. The Cowboys don't get paid any more TV revenue than the Jacksonville Jaguars. They all get the same amount of money. They're all on the level playing field because that's the structure the NFL wanted, and that's what they've that's the revenue agreements they came to with those two networks, with all the networks, I guess. With college football, no, Disney decides, well, this conference gets $80 million a year, that conference gets $45 million a year, and y'all all go settle it on the field. So, yes, I think, and the presidents let it happen. The presidents just completely let it happen because they were either too naive or too blinded by the money to care about what was best for the sport. But, no, Jameis is, that's crazy. That was 11 years ago. That's nuts. It was that long ago. That was a fun time. It's a fun time to be in the city.
Well, I was thinking about, as I was listening to the Rosillo podcast, I was actually listening to the show from there Friday. I was talking to Brady Quinn about, like, right now, like, name the teams that wouldn't surprise you if they were to win the national title. And it's like, I'm like, Oregon, maybe Texas, maybe Georgia. You know, it's like we're at the, and there's going to be 12 teams.
Yeah.
12 teams. And everyone's arguing over who should get in towards the bottom of it. And it's, you know, like Florida State in 2013, like, without a shadow of a doubt. Like, these teams have some warts. Like, Florida State had nothing.
Right.
They're bulletproof. Incredible. Well, we had that.
Yeah. And then the next year they were ranked behind 2 one-loss teams.
No.
And then that's when it started.
That
was the last year of the
that year Ohio State jumped 2 spots from like 6 to 4 in the last poll, and they ended up winning the national title. So, like, you know,
they jumped.
If somebody would have beat them, we would have probably never had to hear about these teams sneaking in the door at the last minute. But when that's, you know, happens the first year,
but they had lost that. They lost to Virginia Tech in week 2 of that season.
Yeah,
a bad Virginia Tech team, or at least a mediocre team, and then they
third-string quarterback or second-string quarterback.
Yeah. Well, Ohio State was on their third-string quarterback. Yeah. They still leapt in because they beat the tar out of some overmatched team in the Big Ten championship
Wisconsin,
game.
I think.
Of course it was, and they jumped over either TCU or Baylor.
Both, I think.
But one of them won the game. They jumped over a team that won on the same day as them, had the same, maybe a better record or the same record, but somehow Ohio State was able to leap 3 spots to get in because TCU and Baylor aren't going to draw eyeballs. Ohio State was, and Ohio State gets in. I think what's cool about this, though, honestly, about the 12-team playoff, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami or Clemson won it. I would. Let me rephrase that.
I'd be shocked.
I would be surprised. I would not be stunned because I just see the parity in the sport. I don't think Miami has a good enough defense.
No, they do not at all.
But I think Clemson has a good enough defense. I think Clemson is much better than what they showed against Georgia. I don't think they're great, but I don't think Georgia's great. No. But the beauty of this sport is I do think now with the parity, everybody, those top 12 teams can all beat each other. You think Oregon's unbeatable? Oregon could lose to Clemson. I maybe wouldn't predict it, but Oregon could absolutely lose to Clemson. Oregon could lose to Alabama or Ole Miss. Like, that's where the sport is now. There are no undeniable best teams. It's all in the eye of the beholder. It's all subjective. Oregon has the best resume right now, but look, man, if Indiana's punter wasn't horrible, if Indiana had Mastromano as their punter, they probably lose that game by 3 to 7 points. But my man gives them a touchdown.
They're still going to make it in, I think.
No, they dropped the ball. Indiana, in the playoff. But I'm saying they weren't overwhelmed by Ohio State. Their offense, I thought, was overwhelmed as the game got away from them. But if that game's played in Bloomington or a neutral site, like, it's a much closer game. And if their punter could just catch the ball, then the game is probably 7-7 at halftime. And then so they gives them a ball. I don't know if any of y'all watched it. Their punter drops a perfect snap, at the 7-yard line. So Ohio State gets the ball at the Indiana 7 right before half. They go and score. So now it's 14-7. The first drive of the second half, Indiana has to punt. The coverage is all going to the right, which is where he's supposed to punt it. He punts it straight left, where Caleb Downs just basically catches it. There's nobody in front of him. He runs down the field and scores again. Their punter gave Ohio State 14 points. If that doesn't happen, that's a game. And Ohio State has out-recruited Indiana at such a high level that should be, honestly, a 40 or 50-point margin of victory. If you're just going by paper and stars and who's going to be in the NFL in a couple of years. But games aren't played like that. And I do think there is a chance that, look, man, Ole Miss might get to the playoff. And Florida beat them. Florida's got 5 losses. But Ole Miss lost to Kentucky.
Bad Kentucky team.
Yeah, Kentucky was in the game with Texas.
And a mediocre LSU team.
Yes, right. So and Kentucky was in the game with Texas in the fourth quarter. They just don't have an offense. So that's all I'm saying is that I do think that this is going to be pretty fun to watch because I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame won the national title. Notre Dame lost to Northern flipping Illinois. And I would say out of those other than the first 3 teams you mentioned, they would be my next favorite to win the national title. Their defense is that good, I think, and the quarterback's good enough, perhaps, and they're physical. So that's the beauty. That's what I like about this new setup. It just, it still angers me about what happened last year.
Going into the conference championship weekend in 2014, TCU was 3rd.
What was their record? Do we know?
10-1.
Okay.
10-1, and then they beat Iowa State 55-3.
Yes.
To become
So they were ranked ahead of Florida State.
11-1.
Right?
No. They were behind Florida State. No, they were. You're right. They were third.
I just want everybody
all
to
I want
realize
to say is they were third. They won 55-3, and then they fell to 6th.
Yeah.
So if you want to start a support group, you can invite TCU people and talk about it too. I mean, people have been betrayed by this system, and not just us.
But TCU lost the game. They did have a loss on their resume.
Correct.
I think to Baylor, right?
Yes, that was
Baylor
the whole
also
point
had just 1 loss.
And they lost. The problem was Baylor. TCU's loss was good because it was Baylor. Baylor lost to unranked West Virginia by 2 scores.
So I just want people. I wrote about it a lot at the time. I'm still, I talk about it a lot ad nauseum. Some would say this is when it started. This is when my whole life. Maybe you thought it was fair or not. Teams with 0 losses were ranked ahead of teams with 1 loss. It's just how life worked. Losses were magnified to the nth degree. They're all that mattered. If you had a 0, you were going to get in.
What about Hawaii? Hawaii was undefeated. I don't think they were ranked ahead of anybody.
I would say like Power 5-ish schools, right? That's all that mattered. It's why it just is. And it mattered when you lost. If you lost later in the season, no chance.
Correct.
You just didn't. You're dropping too far.
Notre Dame, 1993, opened the door for Florida State.
Florida State in 97, losing by a field goal to Florida. All of a sudden, they're knocked out. Tennessee, who lost to that same Florida team in that same field by 4 touchdowns, they got to play Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. Florida State was shipped to the Sugar Bowl because they fell behind Tennessee, even though they had the same record and their one common opponent in the same place. Florida State lost by 3, Tennessee lost by 25. Tennessee lost their game in September. So that's what mattered. It was a loss and when the loss happened. But 2014 is when it all flipped. 2014 is when they gave voters, and the committee certainly took it upon itself to say, you know what? We don't care that much about losses. We care about the eye test. And, back then there was game control. That's no longer a thing, but there was game control and eye test. And it gave – so that's when it happened, 14. As soon as Florida State, the undefeated reigning national champs, fell behind Mississippi State and then started dropping behind 1-loss teams, even though they were undefeated and in a real conference, and had beaten Clemson without their flippin' star quarterback. Still beat Clemson. And, guys, go back and check. Clemson in 2014, pretty f***ing good. Florida State beat them without their quarterback, and still somehow at the end of the year, they're notched below teams with 1 loss. And that's when it started. And then the final, the crescendo of that 10-year ridiculousness was what happened last year when 0-loss Florida State team. Again, I would wager, Aslan, I want to look it up. I think I did last year, and I don't know if I ever wrote about it, that there only maybe twice in the history of the College Football Committee was an undefeated team ranked behind 1-loss teams in the Power 5. They were still in the top 4. And each time it was Florida State. And last year they were behind 2 1-loss teams and got knocked out completely. And then they were also behind 2 1-loss teams in 2014 and had to go play Oregon. But I forgot that going into that stupid ACC championship game in 14, they were number 4.
Correct.
And people were saying, okay, even if they beat Georgia Tech, they might not get in. I remember talking to Jimbo in the hallway after his press conference. He's like, they got to let us in, right? And I'm like, I would have to imagine. You're undefeated. What kind of question is that? And he just rolled his eyes. And then, of course, Georgia Tech went to that Orange Bowl that year and beat Mississippi State.
Beat the brakes off of them.
Yeah, but Florida State still didn't get much credit for winning that game because it was the lowly ACC.
That was an ugly game.
I'm off my the pedestal.
Corey mostly right, not perfect. Game control still a thing, thank God.
Do they mention it? I
Florida
guess
State currently 95th in the nation in game control.
That's probably what they were in 14. They were 106th. But I guess I would say when we heard about it's much like Kirk Herbstreit all of a sudden bringing up this.
Florida State 26th, by the way, 26th in game control in 2014.
Whatever that means. What were they in losses? I think they were first in lack of losses. But Herbstreit bringing up this little asterisk in the rule book about if there's an injury, nobody had ever heard of that until Florida State all of a sudden loses their quarterback. And we got to find a way to get SEC in. Same thing with that. They have not talked about game control on a. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know because I don't watch them anymore.
No, I don't think they do. I think everybody's admitted.
But it was a thing, right?
Oh,
they brought it up
every week.
It was ridiculous. They brought it up every week, and when they would show the resumes on the bottom line scroll, it would be record, points per game, game control, SOS for strength of schedule, and then game control. And it's like, what are we doing? It's just crazy. It's insane. But it is what it is. At least now this year, the bickering from here on out, the bickering will be between teams with 2 losses and teams with 3 losses. So in that instance, I'm like, you had your chance.
Yeah.
If you lose twice in a season, you don't really get to bitch and moan that much, right? You just don't. You've lost twice, and especially if you've lost 3 times, go ahead and shut up. Nobody cares. Maybe you deserve to get in. Maybe you will get in. But nobody's going to be feeling sorry for you if you lost 3 times in a 12-game season.
Game control defined as reflecting the chance that an average top 25 team would control games from start to end the way this team did, given the schedule.
That's a cool stat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder who was number 1 that year in game control.
Oregon, the runner-up, national runner-up.
Okay, so they lost twice that year. So there were at least 2 games where they didn't control them at all, or they didn't have enough control, I guess.
Who did they lose to in 20? Yeah, they were 13.
Well, I know they had 1 loss going in, and then they lost to Ohio State.
They lost to Arizona, unranked Arizona at home.
That's fine. Who cares, right? Who cares? They were in control of all the other games. That game didn't matter. They were ranked ahead of Florida State, right? They were the 2, right?
Yes.
That's insanity.
Bama was 1, Oregon was 2, Florida State was 3, and then Ohio State, they vaulted from 5 to 4. I apologize, not 6.
I thought they were 6. I thought they were behind both Baylor and TCU.
They were 6 at one point, but then after they after they beat Michigan, they moved up to 5. And then after they stomped Wisconsin, they moved to 4.
This should be a new feature on our show, is to talk about any other year but this one. We'll do 2012, 1999, 98. We'll do any other year besides having to talk about this one.
We got some more to talk about. We'll do so right after this. It's Wake Up Warchant. It's presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code WarchantBogo. Warchant BOGO. Buy one, get one free. I want to, off the record, go up to Mike Norvell, and it's on the record. I'm telling you guys all this, right? I'm like, hey, man, if I ever ask you a question that you don't like the way it's going, just be like, stop, Aslan. I'm not going to answer it. Just stop.
Yeah, Randy Shannon did great with that.
Yeah.
And is that what you were referencing?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped on you there. My bad.
In exchange, I ask you, Mike, if you start giving me an answer I don't like, I'm like, just stop. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Thank you, though. It's okay.
Well, please don't do that.
That's all I want to do. We can maybe talk about the Randy thing in a second, but
you could be like, yeah, Mike, we've heard it. They played hard. I got it. Opportunities, challenging.
I put them in a tough spot because I think it's a question that some people are going to ask themselves, at least for 24 hours, but then after that, everything's going to go to who are they going to get as their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. We'll also get to what you asked, Mike, because I really couldn't put 2 and 2 together with what he said, but I'm sure you were able to make sense of it. But it's going to be interesting on Saturday night because it's one team led by a true freshman quarterback that seemingly that program fully believes in, and then another program led by a true freshman quarterback that I think the head coach believes in him. I think probably a lot of his teammates do. So maybe the program believes in him as well. But if you want to count the fans as a program, maybe not nearly as much as they believe in DJ Lagway. So like, will we be at a risk to hear about trajectory the way like Mario talked about Miami versus Florida State and Florida after he beat Florida State? Is that going to be a narrative, or do you think it really is? Because again, like when I asked him too, is like, you talk about this game is so important, but it really is just one game, Corey. I don't think it's going to signal what
Agreed.
DJ Lagway is going to be and what Luke Kromenhoek's going to be. But at least for, I don't know, 48 hours or however many hours until signing day starts on Wednesday, it might be kind of a narrative for some of these coaches on the trail to be like, hey, look what happened. That's what they have. This is what we have. Use that to educate your decision, young man.
Yeah, it's just one game, and it's between a mediocre team and an awful team. I do think the quarterback gives them more juice, just in the narrative and in the future, like what people deem their future, their immediate future to be. I do understand that, but then let's see who your coordinators are. You might get some more juice right back, because at the end of the day, I know you like Lagway. Their quarterback last year wasn't bad.
Mertz is good.
And they had a great offense during COVID, right? Like with Trask and Pitts and those guys.
Yeah, Mullen was rolling.
What did that mean?
No.
Nothing. And that was before the portal became the portal and before NIL. So, I just don't put much stock into that. I do think they're in a better position than Florida State in the immediate future, solely because of the quarterback situation, because I do think that kid is an NFL quarterback. I do. I could be wrong. It's been 6 games. He completed 10 passes last week. Let's see. But I do think that – and he's also got what I think is a pretty darn good offensive line blocking for him and a really strong running game. So he's not asked to do a lot. But when he is asked to do something, it's pretty darn good. So I do think that gives them a little more juice moving forward. But, man,
well, so real quick, I'm sorry, for context, too, that they lost Trask after 2020.
No, I know, but you would have thought, oh, man, Mullen, look what Mullen did with that offense. Florida's got it rolling. Yeah. Florida's going to be rolling again. Trask didn't even start in high school. Let's see what Mullen can do now that he's proven what he can do, what he can do with a decent quarterback. They're going to be flooding to Gainesville, and no, he was fired the next year. And then this guy, and he was wearing a Darth Vader mask. And then this guy this year, he's going to probably have his first winning season, but it's going to be a 7-5 season. He's still at 500 after 3 years, and has lost at least 5 games every year. And in Florida, I don't know. I think they like how hard they play. I will say that again, and I like how they didn't quit. So maybe that is something to build on. But maybe he's just an average coach still. Maybe he is, and then your ceiling is only so high with Billy Napier. No matter who his quarterback is, it's still Billy Napier. Not saying that's the truth or factual. I'm just saying that could be a narrative too. But the beauty is it all flips so quickly. You just mentioned at the top of the show, right? Like Matt Rule was talking about bringing in 50 new guys. Mm-hmm. Miami last year was bad, especially at the end of the year. They just weren't good, man. That wasn't a good football team. Yeah. They were lucky to hang in the game with Florida State. Florida State gave them a touchdown. That should have been a 2 or 3 touchdown win. It wasn't. It was down to the wire, but whatever. Florida State won. And then Miami, and then Cristobal's talking about the trajectory of his program. Great, yeah, you beat the tar out of Florida at the beginning of the season. You beat Florida State, substantially enough. Okay, man, what are you going to have next year? There's no guarantee you're going to win 6 games next year. Could also win 12. Who knows? He might bring in even a better team. But it all depends on December. The month of December is what's going to define each of these programs in the state. Well, each of the programs in the country. The month of December. Florida State's month is a little more important because they're going to be making drastic coaching changes. So it's a lot more important, actually. But none of these rosters are known or set. Miami has no idea who their quarterback's going to be next year. Florida knows theirs. Florida State doesn't. Florida State might bring in their own version of Cam Ward or Dylan Gabriel. Then all of a sudden, they look like the best team in the state. Yeah, I that's why I go back to your original part of the question. I do think it's one game. Lagway is probably going to outplay Kromenhoek. Lagway has better things around him. And he might just be a better quarterback. But he certainly has better, and he's got more experience, but he also has a better offensive line. He's going up against a worse defense, and he's got better weapons. So he should look better than Kromenhoek. That doesn't mean if they meet up again in 2026 back here, if they play again in Doak Campbell Stadium, these two quarterbacks, For all I know, Kromenhoek might be the leading Heisman candidate. We have no idea anymore. And I know that's kind of, I'm reaching for the stars there, but legitimately we have no idea what these teams will look like from year to year. So that's why I think it's hard to say with a question like that or a proposal like that it means any more than just one game. This year, DJ Lagway is a better player than Luke Kromenhoek. This year, Florida is better than Florida State. Doesn't mean they're going to win on Saturday. Certainly doesn't going to mean they're going to win next year when they play.
Yeah, just it's the duality or whatever of this game is everything. We know how important it is to our fans. Yeah. We put extra emphasis on it. You can't come out and then say, well, if we lose it, it's fine. But I want to see if you can maybe eloquently say something other than what I just said. But going in, you're probably going to lose, and it's not fine. But none of this is fine. Like it's just another cherry on top of a crap sundae. Like it's another cherry. You've already added cherries to it. Nothing about losing to Florida is fine, but it's expected, and it happens from time to time. I don't think it defines the programs moving forward is all. I think it's for this 1 year. I think if Jordan Travis would have played in the Swamp last year, what would the score of that game have been? Do you think, honestly? What if Mertz played though? If it was Mertz Jordan,
sure. But just if Jordan had played in that game without Mertz,
probably 2 scores, 2 touchdowns or so. Yeah.
They beat him by 2 touchdowns. So I think they beat him 27-16 or something, or at least by 10 points. So I think they win by 30 in the Swamp. Ooh. If Jordan Travis plays in that game. I don't think it's competitive. I think Florida gives up at halftime because they know they're not going to be able to score enough points to keep up with Florida State. Even though that offense wasn't playing great before Jordan got hurt. I think you're looking at mid-30s for Florida State, probably whatever Florida ended up with, which was also a gift touchdown because of the Akeem Dumb personal foul they called. But that said, that's how much better Florida State was than Florida last year. Now flip it. That's how much better Florida is than Florida State this year. You know what I mean? Like, that's how quick it can change. Florida State lost a lot of good players, didn't replace them really well. Florida actually got a quarterback and is apparently gotten some good players, got some good players in the offseason, some decent players anyway. So the point being, what happened in the Swamp last year, what would have happened if Jordan played, doesn't have any bearing on the next season. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm ready. I agree with you. I was just trying to make some funny little point there. But let's get to the coaching search aspect of this core. When you ask them about timelines, because like I say, listen, Jay Norvell, no relation to Mike, dropped the ball for Florida State fans, at least, by losing to Fresno State this past week. And if they would have won that game, I think they would have clinched a berth in the Mountain West Championship game, which would have then made UNLV seasoned. They're still going to go to a bowl game, but they would not have had this conference championship to chase, which could possibly get them into the playoff if they're one of the highest ranked, or actually, what is it, the 4 and then highest ranked group of 5 champions. So Mountain West is probably it. So if they can beat Boise State in a championship game, they probably go to the playoff.
Yeah.
You asked Mike about it, and he said, all things are kind of open. Is there anything you can distill down from like the 1.5 minute or so response he gave to you? That
he talked in it was a bit of Norvell-ese there, but what I determined was that he did say that some of the guys they're pursuing might actually be in the playoff. And then he also said, now we'll approach – the way I deciphered it is they definitely won't probably announce something before a conference championship game. But then if that team wins the conference championship – so again, for argument's sake, look, man, there's a lot of head coaching jobs available. Marion is a bright – young up-and-coming coach. He might get offers at a lot of these AAC schools. He might be intrigued and take one of them to be the head coach somewhere, including his alma mater, which I think would be a mistake. I don't think Tulsa necessarily is a great coaching ground, but that's where he's from. Gus Malzahn's from there. So anyway, I think that if they get to the conference championship game and lose, there would be an announcement coming very quick. Either way, if they win or lose, you can't wait another 2 or 3 weeks for UNLV to go get beat playing like at Texas in the first round of the college football playoff and then announce it, because by that time you're almost around Christmas, right? The portal has been open for a week or a week and a half. So I think that from what I deciphered is he said they do have some guys. I don't know if it's multiple guys or just the one, and he used the plural by accident. They have guys that are playoff. They're on playoff caliber type teams that might be dealing with a playoff. And then, he said they would evaluate that. Each situation is different, and they would evaluate how they'd handle that moving forward. I think, to me, that means he'll try not to make an announcement. If they agree in principle, say, with Marion, that he's going to come here to be the OC, they will try not to announce it until UNLV is playing in that conference championship game. And whether they win or lose, it has been announced he's moving on. It sucks for those UNLV kids if they win that game and they're actually going to the playoff and their offensive coordinator is leaving and has left. Because if I'm Norvell, I'm like, no, I can't have you stay and coach in the playoff game.
Oh, no way. He doesn't walk away from that.
He walked away. Well, I guess it was just the Cotton Bowl. You're right. But, I mean, you then go into – I mean, I don't know that you can wait. What if they upset Texas? Your OC doesn't get to come in and actually start putting together his roster and his coaching staff until after the portal window was closed?
I guess maybe the fear is if they win that game, maybe he becomes even a more sought-after head coaching
I think
candidate.
by that time there wouldn't be many available. Late December, I think they're all filled by that point. But I guess I would say you can do two things at once. You can prepare for a college football playoff game and put together a staff at another team.
Yeah.
I guess I should
Mark Rick
say
can maybe give him some tips.
Well, yeah, Rick dominated. He put up 2 against Oklahoma that night. I guess you would say I'm announcing that we are announcing and you are signing this contract, but I will allow you to stay on. But you will give me 5 hours a day to go over what we need to go over to figure out what our staff is going to be and what players we want to get in the portal. Right? I think that's fair. But this is just one of the byproducts of a 12-team playoff is that this stuff it's messy, and it's even messier now because of the portal and when the portal window is open, which happens to coincide with the most important games of the season. But that's the life we chose.
By the way, UNLV did play Boise earlier in the season. They lost them 29-24. It was in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So if you want to use that for whatever sort of insight, context. But, yeah, you probably want to root for UNLV to –
You'd like Reno. You'd like Nevada, University of Nevada, to beat UNLV 50-48 this week.
There you go.
Yeah,
well said.
You still feel good about the offense. Great showing. But, you want that season to end as quickly as possible. But it's probably not. They're probably going to the conference championship game.
I don't know if Randy Shannon wants the season to end as quickly as possible. Asked him whether or not he's had conversations about Norvell. And the second part of the question, which he cut off, was, do you still want to coach? Not like coach here, but he's not an old guy. I mean, I don't think he should think about retiring, but I just wonder if maybe I don't know how much of a ball coach. He's doing his whole life. He loves football. I wonder if he would be open to being like South Florida liaison. Maybe you could live down there half the year, or most of the year, but then, just help us in recruiting, establishing, continuing relationships, pipelines in South Florida. But we might not need you as like an on-field coach. But he said that it's never been about that. He's been in these positions before. UCF, I think he said he was an interim position.
Florida
as well. Yeah. Jimbo Fisher took it to him. 2017, James Blackman lit him up.
Right.
But he said it's always been about winning the games. So I don't know. I don't know if Mike has talked to him about it. What do you think, Corey? I mean, what would you put the odds? I don't know, odds would give you like percentage. Is it like 60-40 he doesn't stay? Is it 51-49 he does? Or where do you think Randy Shannon stands right now? And who knows, if he upsets the Gators and shuts down and clamps down DJ Lagway, maybe that also gives you second thoughts about how to
Can you imagine
utilize
if he just got the DC job because he had a good game against Charleston Southern in Florida, which I'm not saying would be crazy. But again, Florida is beatable, and they don't have that good an offense. So maybe, that would be a hard sell, I think, to the people that pay the bills. But I don't know. I don't even know what I'd put a percentage on. I'd say it's probably 33% that he comes back to Florida State in some capacity. Yeah. Because again, you can have as many on-field coaches as you want now.
Yep.
I definitely wouldn't have him in charge of the position he's been in charge of, and I wouldn't have him as my DC. But if you feel like he's still good for the players on the team, if you still think he has a role that can fit, you could certainly offer him something. maybe he'd want it, maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he'd want to go back to another state, a school in the state of Florida, which is what he's kind of done his whole career. But, yeah, I would say 33% at this time that he comes back. But I thought Ira's question was interesting, too, just asking him about the NIL and how that's changed. Because Randy Shannon played with Odell, like late 80s. But, they practiced full pads. They hit every day. That was just a different football back then. And the way he kind of laughed when Ira asked him about the NIL, and I thought he had a good, interesting answer
awesome,
about it.
Yeah. It's a business.
About, like, it's a business now. Yeah. Like, these guys, you want to go, you get dinged up, and you don't want to go to rehab 3 times a day. Or you want to miss a workout. It's like, well, yeah, no, this is a job now, man. It's a job. You're getting paid for it, so it's a job, so act like it. You don't want to have – it's not about just going and have fun at practice. You're a professional now, so act like it. And he says these kids don't – and I think he's talking about at large college football kids in general, not just Florida State. But some of these kids don't understand that if you get NIL money, if you're taking money to be a football player, then treat it like a job. Treat it seriously. It's not time to goof around. It's not time to miss workouts. It's not time to miss treatment or not do the right things for your body nutrition-wise. It all matters, and you need to take that part seriously. But I thought, like, that's what I think would give somebody like him pause about hanging around in the game. It's just the different kinds of kids now that they're there to coach. The ones that leave at the drop of a hat when things aren't easy right away, and that also don't take things as seriously as they need to, even though they're getting paid now, which he never got paid as a player. Miami didn't do stuff like that back then, Aslan.
No.
They weren't doing stuff under the table. So Randy Shannon never got paid. Lamar Thomas, guys like that, they weren't getting paid.
More likely, Randy comes back, or one of the 3 out of Peyton, Farmer, and Jackson comes back. Push.
I'd say it's a really good question. That's a push. I would say that's a push. I would kind of lean on, just maybe because it's the simple math of it. It's 3 against 1. I would kind of lean towards the lineman, one of them coming back. And I thought Papuchis was. He did say and admit that Peyton wanted this to be his last year when the season started, and then he was like, "Yeah, but things." He didn't say this, but this was what we could surmise from the way he was talking. Was, well, yeah, things have changed because Pat hasn't been very good this year. So, he's probably been frustrated by that. So, I think. I don't know, man. I think it's a below average chance, but it's not a 0% chance that 1 or 2 of those guys comes back.
It's been a long show, but I want to play this on the way out. Just
it has been a long show.
I kind of missed a long season. I don't want to say I missed Steve Spurrier, but it was good when we had good and evil. We had villains in college football, and now everyone's friendly with each other because they're all making $6, $7, $8, $10 million a year. This was a question posed to Billy Napier on Monday about how quickly the turntables and where things lie right now, and his thoughts about Florida State, he was asked, and here's Monday press conference. Corey, I want to get your thoughts on his response.
Given where FSU is and with Norvell and your respect for him, how surprised are you at just how the roof is caved in there, really?
Yeah, I mean, I have my own grass to mow, my yard's big, and it has got a lot of weeds in it, and, I got my own issues, so, I don't necessarily think it would be right for me to comment on that.
So, could you just imagine Spurrier? I think he'd be like, good question.
Yeah.
How much is he making? $10 million this year?
Yeah,
How many wins?
It's crazy because every time I read these recruiting rankings, those Florida State boys are always number 1, number 2 in the country, but somehow they only got 2 wins this season. Like he ripped Georgia and Ray Goff forever. Just made fun of Georgia to no end. Now I can't even imagine what he'd be doing with the 2-9 Bobby Bowden team.
Oh my God.
But unfortunately for Steve Spurrier,
Nope.
He never saw anything close to a 2-9 Florida State team when he was at Florida. But yes, that would have been incredible. He would have loved to have been asked a question like that.
Yeah. All right, practice today. It's not open to the media, but we'll be able to get there afterwards and grab some interviews. So be on the lookout for that around 11:30, close to maybe high noonish. We plan to have Andy Staples on the program tomorrow. Or wait, yeah, are we gonna do a show tomorrow, Corey? I know you're traveling. Maybe that'll just be the show. Maybe it'll just be an interview with ourselves and Andy Staples of the Andy and Ari show on the On3 Network.
Okay.
No show on Thursday.
Right.
Obviously. Mailbag will be Friday, but we'll probably record it earlier in the week, everybody.
Yes, yeah.
if you rolled your eyes at that, I get it. I appreciate it. You want to hear us every single day. All I ask is that you go back and look at what we did last year for you folks during Thanksgiving. We did not take a day off, in case you don't want to go back and look at it.
That was not my decision.
It was not Corey's decision.
Yeah, I'm not. So we are absolutely taking a day off this year. We deserve it. So do y'all. Y'all don't need to think about Florida State football on Thursday. Think about everything else and how thankful for you are for your life and the food, your family, your friends. Take a day off Florida State
transfer portal.
The portal, NIL, how quickly this thing can change. Brennan Marion, my man Phil Longo. There's so many things to be thankful for, guys.
I'm thankful for Seminole Headlines. 1 to 3 o'clock,
that's right.
YouTube TV. That's also our it's Warchant TV. Sorry, that's our YouTube page. And 93.3 FM here in Tallahassee, terrestrial radio. Again, be on the lookout for practice interviews and such later today over at warchant.com. The 150 deal is still going on. Warchant BOGO over at Vitamin Energy is still going on as well. At least one more show coming your way, everybody. We appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.